The star from the Netflix quarterback series, Kirk Cousins, starts his season this week against Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ryan and I are going to break down the game and who we feel is going to win in the Week 1 matchup of the 2023 NFL season. But before we do that, if you have not already, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win the game. Also, Ryan and I, we're doing a season-long competition, and we're predicting every single game and making videos. So be sure to ring the bell to get notified of when we release new contents of our predictions. And Ryan, let's get into it here.
Let's do it.
This game is very intriguing just because we're not very high as of now on both of these teams, just because there's a lot of question marks on the overall talent of the team. But that being said, though, both teams were in the playoffs last year. Both teams did win the division last year. So it's a very unique kind of setup. And I know in our season-long prediction that we did series a couple weeks back, for both teams, we did not have them having a good record by the end of the year. But that being said, though, there's still some talent on both teams. Kirk Cousins, as I mentioned, leading the way. Great quarterback, had a great season last year. I hope he can have a great season again this year. Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in the league. He's got Mike Evans on the other side as well. And neither team really has a gotcha defense where you really have to be there's some strengths on the Bucs side, but in general, though, it's not as lethal as what it was a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I do, just for offensive continuity, kind of side with the Vikings, just with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. Then they have TJ Hawkinson that they just extended, and then they brought in Jordan Addison through the draft. And so I think that is probably the best group. Also, this offensive line should be a little healthier and a little bit better in Week 1 than they kind of were at the end of last year. So it's going to be a really interesting game. The Buccaneers, I'm curious to see, because they do still have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Cade Otton, the tight end. I know Ryan Jansen is on IR again, but Tristan Wirfs is making the switch to left tackle, and then they brought in who's the kid from North Dakota State? Cody Mock to play. I think he's at right guard or right tackle. And so this offensive line should be a little bit better. But then obviously the big addition is going to be Baker Mayfield at starting quarterback. How is he going to do? How is he going to look down in Tampa? And so that's just a bunch of question marks, in my opinion, on the offensive side of the ball. Whereas I think the Vikings, they're making additions to an already pretty solid offense. And so that makes me lean a little bit towards the Vikings there. The Vikings are a 6-point home favorite. So I think that, the odds makers are kind of siding that way as well. As well, the over-under is 45. And I actually do think the over, neither of these teams have a great defense. So I think the over will be hit in that one.
Well, and that's where, and take this with a grain of salt, but it's like last year, Tampa Bay, they did the second most passing yards last year. That was with Tom Brady. And Minnesota gave up the second most passing yards last year as a defense. Mm-hmm. So take that with a grain of salt. If anything, actually, where I just want to focus on that is the Vikings passing defense, just because obviously Baker Mayfield's not Tom Brady. But that being said, though, they do still have several of those weapons, like as you mentioned, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin as well leading the way. And Baker Mayfield does add a layer of mobility to kind of help with this kind of weekend restructured offensive line that Tom Brady just couldn't have. So that's where I think that there is going to be an X factor, so to say. But I agree with you, though. I think Minnesota Week 1 at home. I just think that Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins is going to be too much. Alexander Madison, I guess they got rid of Dalvin Cook, but I think that was probably for the best for both parties involved. Madison can absolutely hold his own. But also, too, it's still a weak offensive line, and I think they're going to be going up against one of the an average defensive line. I'll just put it that way. So, but I think Minnesota's going to pull it out here. I think it's going to be tough. But very curious to watch how both teams play, because I can definitely be persuaded that for either team, if they look good and look competently good, not just getting lucky, that maybe they'll have a better season than I originally had thought.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I will say it is Week 1. It's going to be hard to take anything away from how either of these teams are going to do. However, I think if Baker Mayfield comes out and absolutely stinks, like I think we could say that our prediction was right about the Buccaneers and that they're really going to struggle. And so another thing too, the Vikings defense, they did add Brian Flores. So hopefully, at least schematically, this passing defense will be improved. So yeah. But it sounds like we both are leaning towards the Vikings in this one. So let's go ahead and wrap this up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe down below. And while you're there, leave a comment and let us know who you think is going to win, the Buccaneers or the Vikings, and why. And other than that, we'll see you guys next time.